Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. Immigration in the United States, for sure, is a big issue, but also becoming more of one in Canada with the current federal government's policy of bringing in, 500,000 or so immigrants per year, and I think it was greater than that in the last year because of a catch-up from COVID-19. I read a really interesting article this past couple of days by Parisa Mahboubi, who is a senior policy analyst and leads the CD Howe's Institute's Human Capital Policy Program about this topic. And it was titled Quality Over Quantity, How Canada's Immigration System Can Catch Up with Its Competitors. And she did a really great job of explaining our current system, where it's good, where it's bad, and how it can compare to Canada, how Canada's immigration system can compare to Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and some other countries. And I think that was kind of interesting. Parisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Brian.
Thank you for joining us. You've got a research interest in social policy, I understand, and you've concentrated on immigration, demographics, skills, education, and the labor market concerns. And your expertise in these areas has resulted in the publication of numerous different articles and a regular column in the Globe and Mail business section, which I had the pleasure of reading. So tell me, what was this study, quality over quantity, and what's the argument that you're making?
Absolutely. So the purpose of doing this study was that Canada has increased the immigration target level significantly in recent years with a focus on economic immigration to be able to basically promote economic growth and to as well as address to be able to address issues related to aging and labor needs in the labor market. But one thing that it's really important to do that before increasing immigration numbers and also focusing on economic immigration, it is really important to understand whether there is any challenges in terms of selecting economic immigration, or in general, if there is any room for improvement to be able to take advantage of immigration and use the full potential of economic immigration and also for immigrants as a whole. For example, Statistics Canada recently has shown that some reforms since mid-2010 led to improvement in basically improvement in point system and better selection of economic immigrants resulted in overall better labor outcomes for immigrants. But the question is whether we are doing enough in terms of the selection, if there is any room for improvement, what other countries are doing, because there is a race for talent globally. And it's really important to position ourselves to position ourselves in a to be well positioned compared to other countries.
I found some of the factors that you've got in your study kind of interesting when you compared Canada versus Australia and the UK. And one of the ones that jumps out is whether you've actually got a job offer already. And fully half of the UK point system is based on whether you got a job offer already or not, and 0% in Canada was based on whether you have a job offer or not. And I've heard so many people talk about, the biggest challenge is we bring people here that have got great education, they can't get a job, and so they end up driving an Uber or a taxi. Why don't we give value to, if not frankly incentives for, getting a job before you even come?
In fact, we do give points for those individuals with a job offer. These are bonus points. So we are not taking a job offer as a mandatory requirement to apply for immigration and to become an economic immigrant. So those individuals without a job offer would have opportunity to apply. But those with a job offer, actually, they are able to increase their opportunity to be selected as an immigrant. We are giving points, but they are bonus points. And those individuals can increase their chance of becoming immigrants by having a job offer.
You say that language is a big issue. Is it similar in Canada versus the other places? The importance of speaking, what is it? I presume English or French?
So in terms of the language, what research shows is that it's really important factor for the labor market success post-immigration after landing, and it contributes, it improves immigrants in terms of the integration into the labor market, and also in terms of, not only in terms of economic terms, but even integration into society. So language is really important factor. And for example, Australia, which is our major competitor, and our systems actually, we are we learn lessons from each other, and we try to improve our immigration in a way that we can select top candidates. So Australia also placed the emphasis, it was actually the first country to place a high emphasis on language, because they saw a strong correlation between a strong language ability and a strong labor market outcomes. But a decade later, after noticing that, okay, language is a really important factor, Canada also adopted language requirements and assessment and giving priority to language. But our approach is slightly different from Australia. So yes, this is a really important factor. We need place high emphasis on that, but our approach is slightly different from Australia. They target those individuals who have very strong language ability. But Canada, its approach is more really lenient. So those individuals with medium skill level in terms of language ability, they are able to obtain points and to be able to increase their chance of getting selected.
You also did an analysis of income, and I was really surprised by this because, a lot of the things we hear about is that, immigrants come and they don't get jobs, and they're potentially a drain on our healthcare system or social safety net, et cetera. What you showed is that 1 year after they were admitted, they were actually making 25% more than the average median income of all Canadians.
Yes, absolutely. So one thing that we need to highlight here is that we are selecting those individuals that are, they are on average, they are more skilled, more educated than average Canadian population. So when they are, so it is actually expected that these individuals that they are selected based on their high human capital factors to be able to earn more than average Canadians. So that's expectation. However, when we look at the result, there has been some changes in recent years. For example, before some reforms, before express entry, on average, even principal applicants of economic immigrants, they didn't earn above the median income of all Canadians. So one factor is that these results, they don't take into consideration education and skills level. But however, what is really important, earnings actually represents a level of skills and quality of education for immigrants. So that's why it's really important to look at earnings even before immigration, because in our point system we pay attention to experience, but experience is not exactly, it is possible that immigrants come to Canada, before becoming permanent immigrants, temporary residents. They are in Canada, they have a job, but the job may not be exactly relevant to their skills and knowledge, or in terms of their income, they are not really earning to the level that the same person with the same level of education could earn in Canada. So this is really important because pre-pandemic earnings represents individuals' quality of education and experience. If those immigrants, they had high quality jobs, high quality experience, then they can contribute better to our economy post-immigration.
That's interesting. So these immigrants tend to do actually better than the average Canadian income earner within a year of arrival, which is, I think that it's not something that a lot of people recognize. One of the other things I found interesting is that relative to sort of the minimum amount of points that one needs to become eligible, education in New Zealand is is equal to 100% of the points you need. But it's not in Canada. So it would appear that New Zealand values education dramatically more than Canada. Is that the case?
This is not exactly the case because New Zealand has created a system that is super simple. It's easy, it's really easy for applicants to understand the system, to predict their chance of becoming an immigrant. So it's really understandable. And also, it's not exactly in terms of the education. There are three exactly if they meet the education requirement, they can become an immigrant. But in Canada, we have different layers. We have different factors. For example, we have core human capital factors, and then we have transferability factors that includes education and whether the education was in Canada or versus another or it was obtained outside Canada. And then also we have some bonus marks. So when we look at Canada's immigration system, it's a bit complicated, and it might be hard even for some applicants to understand how they can position themselves to increase their chance of becoming an immigrant. But there are different layers. We provide bonus points for education, or for example, in terms of transferability, and to be able to become a more successful immigrants, we give those individuals some points. So what I summarize in my paper in terms of the points is just a broad overview, but in each factor there are different layers and sub factors that we need also to take into consideration, and it's a bit complicated. But what New Zealand
is a bit complicated, but you do criticize the point system, which I find kind of interesting. And your final conclusion is that Australia, one of Canada's major competitors, has demonstrated greater agility and innovation in skilled migration reform by actively leveraging research evidence to develop, oversee, and enhance selection policies. In contrast, you say Canada's reforms have often lagged or lacked stringency. So it sounds to me like you think that we got a system that is sort of overly bureaucratic and not up to the times and needs to be improved. Anyway, we got to take a break for some messages, and we're going to come back in just 2 minutes, and we're going to explore this study and what it means for Canada's economy and immigration system in greater detail. Stay with us, everybody. Back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. My guest tonight is Parisa Mahboubi. She's a senior policy analyst and leads the CD Howe Institute's Human Capital Policy Program. And our topic is immigration. She's recently written a paper and a column in the paper. She's written a research paper that got published, and then a column in the newspaper about immigration and our Canadian immigration system, and comparing it to some other immigration systems, primarily Australia, New Zealand, and the UK, and compared them and criticized what we've got, and tried to talk about what could be improved in Canada's. Let me tell you a bit about Parisa, if I could. Her work is concentrated on immigration, demographic, skills, education, and labor market concerns. Her expertise in these areas has resulted in the publication of numerous research studies, articles, and a regular column in the Globe and Mail's business section. Prior to joining the CD Howe Institute in 2016, she worked as an instructor and research assistant at the University of Guelph, where she also completed her PhD studies. She's also worked at Statistics Canada Research Data Center. Her academic qualifications include a Bachelor of Science and a Master of Science in Economics from Shiraz University in Iran, as well as a Master's of Arts and a PhD in Economics from the University of Guelph. During her PhD studies, Parisa's research focused mainly on the life cycle analysis of Social Security reforms and investment-specific technology shocks using dynamic stochastic, is that the right word?
Yes.
Stochastic general equilibrium models with an emphasis on human capital accumulation. She also studied the skills, education, and labor market outcomes of different generations of immigrants in Canada. Wow, that must have been an interesting study. Maybe we'll come back to it and you can explain to us what dynamic stochastic general equilibrium models are. That'll be kind of interesting. But let's come back to your study here. I found it interesting that you also have in the point system for a skilled immigrant, age and whether they're married or not. If they're skilled and they've got a good education and they got language skills and they got experience doing a job, why is their age or whether they're married or not at all relevant? Are you ageist and marriageist? Is that a word? Or what? It's almost as if you want young single people and no one else.
In terms of the age, this is really important because, first of all, in terms of human capital, so the younger individuals, they can contribute longer to the labor market, and also they can contribute to the economy longer. So, and we need those young individuals. We
But what if
want to
they're
address.
a little older and wiser? Isn't there some, maybe we should have a category for wisdom?
It doesn't mean that older individuals are not favorable. So for example, we do have age and we do have experience. So the more experience you have, the higher point you obtain. So it doesn't mean that we are not looking for experienced individuals. But age also really matters because, as I mentioned, first of all, this is a human capital factor. In terms of those individuals, they have higher potential to contribute to the economy. They can contribute for a longer period of time. So that's the advantage that Canada obtained through immigration. But having said that, we have also a main factor, human capital factor for experience. So we have to basically make a balance between education, experience, and age. And the system is actually doing that. So when it comes to age, it means a specific age group received the highest point. But after that, people still are able to collect some specific points up to a certain age. And this is something that Australia and other countries are doing because they want to take advantage of immigration. We want to address aging problem. We don't want to bring those individuals through economic immigration who can retire in 2 or 3 years. How we can solve the aging problem if we focus on those individuals. And also one thing that I want to focus on is that we are talking about principal applicants here. So those individuals are about 30% of total immigration numbers that we are admitting every year. So this point system and this selection criteria applies only to 30% of immigrants, about 30% of immigrants.
What about spouse partner factors? It seems like you're really valuing single people, and I would have thought people that are married might actually be a little bit more stable.
So those individuals who are married, they are able to obtain some points, but through their spouse. For example, if their spouse has some level of, has some ability in language or experience, they also obtain some scores and increase their chance of becoming immigrants. So when we are, they have equal chance. But for example, a single person is responsible for him or himself or herself only. So they need to obtain a specific score to be able to select it. Those individuals who are married, they can obtain those some additional scores through a spousal factor. We do have a spousal factor in our immigration system. So if their spouse has high human capital, they have higher chance to become immigrants.
In the UK, you need to have a job, and you need to have a job with a certain level of income, other than if they've got a PhD or they're in science, technology, engineering, or math. Why is that so different? And does it work?
In my view, focusing on earnings matter because the research also show that, and it also shows that those immigrants are able to find employment that matches their skills and a level of human capital. So that's a good factor to be included in general when it comes to earnings and the job offer. As I mentioned, there are some immigrants, they are in Canada, they have a job, but in reality, their job, there are some skills mismatches. They don't work in fields that are relevant to their skills and education, and we are not using their full potential. We want to maximize the full potential of immigration and economic immigration. But one thing that UK actually has taken into consideration is the job offer. The job offer should be at a minimum, there is a restriction. Below a certain level, no one can apply. Above a certain level, there is a window. If, for example, they fall in that window, but they are in a specific occupation like STEM, they are still able to become eligible. But if they are out of STEM fields without any PhD, they have to have the minimum requirement is actually higher for those out of the field of STEM and those without PhD.
I found it interesting that you quote a couple of studies that say, and please explain this if you could, a two-step landing process is far better than a one-step landing process, so that people that come to study or work first of all, and then come as a full immigrant are better off than people that come initially. Is that true, and why?
This is true because what research has shown is that those individuals who studied here, on average, they earn more than those individuals who had no Canadian education. Or also alternatively, or combined with that, those individuals with Canadian experience, they do better than those individuals without Canadian experience. There are several factors contribute to that. For example, first of all, language. As I mentioned, this is an important factor. So those individuals who arrived earlier, they are able to, even if they had some issues in the beginning, they try to tackle that issue over time, by the time that become a landed immigrants. And they also, in terms of the culture, getting familiar with Canada's labor market, and also in terms of the education, where you obtain the highest level of education, plays really important role in the labor market outcomes of those immigrants. So that's why all countries actually they favor two-step immigration, and and because the system is designed in a way that those, for example, in Canada, Canadian work experience, through that individuals can obtain higher scores, or if they have Canadian education, if they obtain the highest level of degree in Canada, they are able to obtain higher points. So we are giving they are more likely to be selected if they have pre-immigration work experience or education, and because the study shows that.
But at the same time, there's been this big controversy of late of foreign education, international students coming to Canada to become educated, and people thinking that a lot of them are just coming to get immigrated, to get immigration status. But yet you're saying that actually, based on the research, is a good way of coming to the country. So which is it? Is all these foreign students coming to Canada bad, or is it actually the smartest way to come to Canada and the smartest way for us to bring them to Canada?
That is a very good question. And this is actually one of the main points I wanted to make in this study. Two-step immigration is really important. What we have done pre-pandemic, by introducing express entry, by focusing on two-step immigration, we've been doing a great job. However, having said that, we are selecting those, for two-step immigration, we are selecting top candidates out of the pool of temporary residents who were here or they are still here. That's why the quality of temporary residents, the quality of those on a work permit in Canada, the quality of those studying in Canada or graduated matters. So that's the point. We made some changes. We have increased even the number of temporary residents significantly in recent years. That can affect the quality. There is a trade-off between quality and quantity. When we increase the number of temporary residents, those with work permit, and also in terms of the type of occupations that we are allowing those individuals to work with, we are now allowing those, we are giving more positions, in terms of those temporary foreign workers that can work in low paying jobs. we are now allowing basically employers to hire these individuals more easily compared to pre-pandemic. That's why this is really important to pay attention to the quality of those candidates, and we have to be careful. International students are really good. They are great source of labor supply for us and great candidate for permanent residency. But we have to also careful about the type of education we are offering them. If an institution reduce the quality of education offering to international students, we are reducing the quality of international students who are great potential for immigration. That's why we have to also pay attention to quality when we are increasing the numbers.
You show that skilled workers that may not have as much education, but actually have skills, don't do as well as everyone else, all other immigrants, but they still do better than the average Canadian tax filer. We've had a lot of comments of late in regards to housing that we just don't have enough carpenters. We don't have enough bricklayers. And so is there not a need for us all to bring in not necessarily people that have got PhDs like you do, but people that just know how to build homes and build highways and have skilled workers come?
So in terms of the selection of those individuals, first of all, we do have a number of streams and a number of avenues to be able to bring those individuals into Canada. In terms of, for example, on a temporary basis, we do have two different avenues. And for example, one of them is temporary foreign workers program. And we are also allowing employers to apply for those type of temporary foreign workers. And also in terms of the permanent immigration, even within under the umbrella of economic immigration, we do have a specific program for those individuals that they can, if they meet the requirements, they can apply. And also last year we introduced category-based selection to be able to select those individuals. But the point I'm making is that at the same time that focusing on, for example, those individuals in skilled trades, we have also created path for permanent residency for some low-paying jobs. That one thing that I want to mention, that again, economic immigration is part of total immigration numbers that we are seeing. So there are other immigrants that after they arrive, when they arrive to Canada, they are looking for opportunities, and some of them they change their career paths. They take other different type of skills and education to be able to integrate to the labor market. In terms of addressing labor needs in some certain occupations, I think not only in terms of the selection, in terms of integration and offering those career paths and education, and also in terms of licensing, these occupations that you mentioned, they are mainly in regulated occupations. Even immigrants after their arrival, they are facing some challenges to be able to work in those fields. So we have to look at, we have to take a holistic approach to be able to address those type of shortages. And there are different ways to deal with that through immigration, but integration and what provinces are doing in terms of their regulation is they are all important.
This is a fascinating study, and it's really kind of interesting because I think it's very topical given the controversy about is our immigration levels too high? This substantial increase that the federal government put in place recently in the last while, that's taken it up to the 400 or 500,000 a year. Some people think is causing some of our housing shortage. Other people think it's critically important for our GDP to grow. And other people have said, yeah, but GDP in total isn't relevant. It's GDP per capita that is relevant. And what you're showing is that maybe GDP per capita actually improves with immigration rather than sort of the immediate visceral reaction that might be GDP goes up, yeah, but GDP per capita goes down. What you're showing is that a year later, they're actually doing better than the average Canadian tax filer. Anyway, it's a fascinating topic and conversation. We're going to have to take a break, though. We're going to come back in 2 minutes with Parisa, and I'm going to ask her a couple of questions. I'm going to ask her about refugees. I'm going to ask her about family reunification, and I'm going to ask her about the total number and whether that is something that she agrees with or not. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be back in just 2 minutes. The topic tonight is immigration. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. My guest tonight is Parisa Mahboubi. She is a senior policy analyst at the C.D. Howe Institute, where she leads their human capital policy program. And she's recently written a column that I read in the Globe and Mail in regards to immigration in Canada and comparing our immigration system with Australia, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom. And it was titled Quality Over Quantity. And I got to ask you, Parisa, we had a reasonable controversy over the course of the last couple of years that increased our immigration levels to this 400 or 500,000, up from the numbers that were a couple 100,000 in prior years. And I understand that one of the major advisors to the Trudeau government said it was only one of the critical ways that we would grow our GDP in Canada, and in fact said that we wanted to grow to like 100 million people over the course of the next bunches of years. But your title is about quality over quantity. So what do you think of this issue? Is there a right number of immigrants per year? Do you agree with this 400 to 500,000 a year?
I believe more than the number, it's really quality of those immigrants that we are selecting. We have to pay attention to that. So if we are able to, for example, given those numbers, bring high quality immigrants, we can benefit from those, and there is no problem with that. So that's the problem. We have to make a balance between quality and quantity, because we want to contribute to GDP per capita. By increasing the number of immigrants, GDP will grow. There is no doubt about that. But whether GDP per capita, whether is going to improve as well or not, whether Canada is becoming a richer country or not, that's really, it's an important question. And researchers and governments, provincial and federal governments need to pay attention to that, whether increasing the number of immigrants to a certain level, and by focusing, for example, on economic immigration, is going to contribute to GDP per capita of the country. So what past research has shown is that we are not exactly in the right spot, and we are in a good position to be able to take advantage of economic immigration to increase the Canadians' living standards. So to be able to do that, so the aim of this research is to provide some options for government to look at, to be able to improve the labor market outcomes of immigrants, and also to stay on the path that it has started to be pre-pandemic. As I mentioned, in recent years, we have made some changes that could position, that make us vulnerable to what we are doing in terms of the selection. So we have to be very careful in terms of who we are selecting, and also after that, it comes to integration. But we shouldn't only pay attention to economic growth. We should pay attention to GDP per capita growth.
I agree completely. So you've got four major recommendations. One is that you think that we have to have a minimum points threshold for eligibility. And you say that Australia and New Zealand have such a minimum points threshold. What's the benefit of that versus what we do? We have these points. You've got all these bonus points. Why do you think you need this minimum points threshold?
So in order to have that minimum threshold, it means that we are focusing on top talent. We are also at the same time sending signals to those potential candidates that, for example, if you want to become a potential candidate and to be able to apply for immigration, it means you have to work on your human capital factors. So not only we are ensuring that we are selecting top talents when it comes to selection, we are also indirectly sending a signal to the world and those potential candidates that, okay, these are the factors that we are selecting immigrants. So if you want to increase your chance of becoming immigrants, work on those factors, try to see how you can improve your scores. And then we are bringing immigrants who are more ready and more ready to be able to contribute to our country.
Then you recommend adding in a pre-admission earnings factor. And you say that UK, New Zealand, and Australia all have it. So you want people that are making a lot of money somewhere else first before they come to Canada. Why not people that have just graduated, like getting a PhD from a university in Iran or China or somewhere? Why do you want people that have got high earnings already from their home country?
So in terms of the earnings, these countries, and also in terms of the recommendation and I provided, it's mainly targets those individuals who were already in Canada and work, those, for example, those who can obtain a job offer or who work for at least 1 year in Canada in a specific job. So we want to make sure that, for example, that job offer, the level of income matches their skills and education, or the job offer they obtain. It shouldn't apply to those individuals who are recent immigrants, recent graduates. For example, we are giving points to those individuals with education level. But in terms of the job offer, so we are giving points for job offer. We are giving points for Canadian work experience. Why not take into consideration their earnings, not only the work experience they had or the job offer they have right now?
So it's not just earnings from another country, but it's earnings that they might have enjoyed in Canada when they were here before they became an immigrant, and or when they were whether they had a job offer. Okay, well, that's interesting. Then you talk about language, and I found this really interesting because you said language is as important as work experience and as education. So language is really key, being able to speak English or French.
Absolutely, language is a key factor. Just imagine someone comes to Canada and not able to communicate anyway. Which employer is going to offer them job or even give them opportunity to have an interview? So it's really important to be able to communicate in a level that you can find a job. That's really important.
I know lots of people that are the children of immigrants that would have come here after World War II, or the grandchildren of people that would have come here at World War II or just before, and in Little Italy or Little Portugal or Little Poland or whatever, a lot of those people, they don't speak very good English. They still speak the language skills from their home country, but their kids and their grandchildren certainly do, and their kids and grandchildren have done very well.
There is no doubt that children of immigrants, they are doing very well in the labor market. My PhD studies, one of the chapter was on how the skills level labor market outcomes of the children of immigrants, and they are doing better than even the third generation who were born in Canada and from Canadian parents. So there is no doubt that the benefits of immigration is multi-generation, and it's not just about immigrants, how they contribute to the labor market. But the point is that all these recommendation is related to economic immigration, and economic immigration is a program that we select individuals. We decide who comes to Canada based on their human capital factors and levels. So that's why this is really important that we pay attention to language for these individuals, because the purpose of the program is that to bring economic immigrants who can contribute to the labor market immediately, who can contribute to our economy immediately. And that's why, for example, we are increasing the number of immigrants with the focus on economic immigration who are able to join the labor market and address our labor market needs. That's why we need to select the top talents through that program who can immediately contribute to our labor market. And again, these individuals, they are only 30% of total immigrants. The rest of immigrants, yes, there are immigrants that they come in different situations. We don't select them, and we don't select them based on their human capital. And then integration comes into, integration policy. becomes really important, because at the end, immigrants, when they move to, for example, for those individuals move to Canada, if they are not able to contribute to the society and to the economy, those individuals, they are not actually doing well in terms of their own self. There are some immigrants leaving Canada. Just recently, Statistics Canada published a study that more immigrants, they decide to leave Canada in more recent years. And the reason is that if they have some challenges, if, for example, they are not able to earn, and economic reasons actually are main factors in in that decision to leave Canada after immigration. So that's why it's really important for immigrants to integrate well into labor market and in our economy. I understand their children contribute and we benefit from those. But if immigrants are not able to find the jobs that matches their skills, they leave, they return to their home country, or they find jobs in other countries who can offer them better opportunities. That's why we have to pay attention to those factors that contribute to better labor market outcomes, like language.
That's interesting. I've never seen a statistic for that. Do you know how many immigrants on average don't stay, that actually leave and return or go elsewhere?
So the study looks at a long-term trend, and I wrote an op-ed on with Bill Robson on that topic, and what the study shows that. So basically, the over time, the percentage of immigrants who leave Canada increases. But the critical point years is between 3 to 5 years. Many of those immigrants, I don't remember the exact number right now, but up to 15 or 17, I guess. After certain years, it becomes close to 20% of those immigrants
20%,
leaving.
really?
But up to, again, I don't remember exact numbers right now. But the number, actually, this is significant given that we have also high immigration numbers. So we have to pay attention to those factors that makes immigrants to leave Canada. And what the study shows that actually the likelihood of leaving Canada is highest among those highly skilled individuals, even former international students.
That's interesting. And you have one final recommendation, which I found really interesting, is that we don't do a good job attracting entrepreneurs, people that are going to invest in businesses. We're going to have to take a break, though, for some messages. And when we come back, I'm going to ask her why we don't do as good a job as Australia and the UK in attracting entrepreneurs. Stay with us, everyone. Back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. My guest tonight is Parisa Mahboubi. She is with the C.D. Howe Institute, and she's written a really interesting column on the quality of immigration and immigrants is far more important than the quantity. And we've talked through several of her analyses and recommendations, and the recommendations are interesting. She thinks we need a minimum threshold for eligibility based on these point systems that are applied, and we've talked through some of the points that she gives and that we give, and that she thinks that we don't allocate as well as Australia, New Zealand, and the UK do for different things such as experience, such as education, such as age, such as whether they have a spouse or not, etc. And that we should add another one, which is a pre-admission earnings factor that all UK, New Zealand, and Australia all have, which she thinks is important. That English or French language skills are critically important. And I would have thought that we would have been evaluating immigrants in that regard. She thinks we need even stronger level of criteria there. The last one I found really interesting. And you said that we do a poor job of attracting entrepreneurs, or at least of ranking entrepreneurs highly in our point system, such that we don't get as many entrepreneurs coming, and we therefore face, weak business investment. Why aren't we doing a better job, or why aren't we trying to do a better job in attracting entrepreneurs?
This is a good question. So we have to understand what are the main factors that affects the those individual investors' decision to move to Canada. So there are basically two sides in that story: supply and demand. In terms of, for example, demand for investors and self-employed individuals, we do have some programs, but historically, we've seen that those immigrants, they are not even doing the way that they were supposed to. They are not meeting the goal of the program after their immigration. And so we've tried different ways to be able to make the program attractive to those immigrants and also to be able to meet the objectives of the program. So far, we haven't been that much successful in that regard. And in terms of even the targets number for these are specific categories, when I compare the target level, the proportion of investors, for example, that we are targeting in Canada compared to other countries in relation to total immigration, we are not our target level is lower than other countries. And also in terms of the attracting those numbers, we are not even admitting enough numbers. Sometimes we are not even meeting our target level. Our target level is low, but also we have some challenges in terms of attracting those individuals. So we have to do something about that. Again, not only because we need those individuals, and we at the same time that we need human capital, we need capital investment to have to give those workers the tools they need to be able to contribute to our economy, to be able to increase GDP per capita in our country. But at the same time, that study that I mentioned about immigration of immigrants, these investors actually are more likely to leave Canada. That can also speak about, for example, some barriers to investment in Canada, in terms of the regulation, tax policy. So we shouldn't only look at immigration when we want to target investors. In terms of immigration, yes, we have to look at in terms of how we can smooth the transition, how we can select these individuals better who can contribute to our economy and stay longer in Canada. But at the same time, we have to also address those barriers for investors to be able to invest in Canada and to stay in Canada.
I agree. I think we need to do a better job of ensuring that people, when they come, get jobs. And if they're these entrepreneurs, they get an opportunity to invest. And I think that, there's been programs in the past where if they had a certain amount of money, they could quickly invest in different programs. I'm not sure if we're doing as good a job in that regard today as we have in the past. One other factor that I found interesting in your report is that we've been pretty consistent in the mid-teens, in that 14 to 17% range of refugees. And so that we do, all this controversy about the southern United States and how many refugees are coming into the United States, we get 14 to 17% of our immigration every year, somewhere in the 75 to 80,000 people that are refugees and have done consistently in the past. And I think that that's part of our role and obligation as part of the international community. And it's interesting that it's a reasonably consistent number in the mid-teens of the percentage. Parisa, this has been a really interesting study. Thank you for doing the study, and thank you for writing the article, and thank you very much for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you for this opportunity. I really enjoy our conversation.
So did I. And I think, bottom line, quality of immigration and of immigrants is critically important. And I think these suggestions that Parisa had in her study, that we should have minimum standards in this point system that we have for people that are coming, I think is key. Valuing how much money they have made and will make, I think is key. Having the language skills and making sure that we also include a factor for people that want to start a business and be entrepreneurs, because I think that that's a skill base that we desperately need in Canada, as small and medium-sized companies are the generator of the vast majority of jobs in Canada. Parisa, thank you so much for joining us. That's our show for tonight, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I remind you, I'm on every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock on 960 AM. You can stream me online at www.saga960am.ca. My podcasts and videos are after I put them on the air broadcasting up on my website, briancrombie.com. And I also post them on social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and my YouTube channel. And if you have the time, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks. Good night, everybody.